Welcome to Kaumudy Global. We know that the most recent visit of the Prime Minister of Japan to India had grabbed international attention as it happened against the backdrop of Russia-Ukraine war. Japan discussed with India Ukraine situation, LAC situation, besides disclosing its plans to invest $42 billion over the next 5 years in India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi made public China's significant plans after a bilateral meeting with his Japanese counterpart, Fumio Kishida. Fumio Kishida in Delhi on March 19th, Saturday evening. Japan will raise its investment target in India to an ambitious 5 trillion yen or rupees 3.2 lakh crore, that is $42 billion over the next 5 years, went PM Modi's announcement after the meeting. Mr. Kishida, accompanied by a high-level delegation, arrived in Delhi for the 14th India-Japan Annual Summit at around 3:40 p.m. on Saturday. This was the first visit to India as the head of the Japanese government. The two sides also exchanged 6 agreements on cybersecurity, economic partnerships, wastewater management, urban development, a clean energy partnership, and an agreement on promoting bamboo-based products from the Northeast region. At a joint briefing later, PM Modi said, deepening India-Japan ties will not only benefit the two countries but will also help in facilitating an atmosphere of peace, prosperity, and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. It may be recalled former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2014 had announced 3.5 trillion yen in investment and financing over 5 years during a visit to India. The talks in this 14th summit also touched on various regional issues when PM Narendra Modi briefed PM Fumio Kishida on the situation at the line of actual control with China and the People's Liberation Army's attempts at multiple transgression on the LAC. India's Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla pointed out that any normalcy in the India-China relationship would depend on the progress on the LAC de-escalation talks. This implied that the proposed visit of Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi would need to focus on that. However, Japan's differences with India over Russia-Ukraine conflict became evident when Mr. Kishida emphasized that Russia's actions must not be condoned, while PM Modi made no direct reference to the situation. Mr. Kishida said in his press statement after signing the agreements that Russia's invasion on Ukraine is a grave development that shakes the fundamentals of the international order. We need to resolutely respond to the situation. I spoke to PM Modi about this and said we should not condone or allow this kind of attempt to unilaterally change the status quo by force in any region of the world, Kishida said. This was the first India-Japan annual summit since 2018, which had been postponed due to protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act and then due to COVID pandemic. PM Modi said as the global post-COVID recovery process falters and geopolitical developments present new challenges, it was necessary to bolster the India-Japan partnership, which would have an impact on the Indo-Pacific region and the world at large. Earlier, a senior Japanese official said cooperation on the Ukraine stand is a priority issue for the Japanese Prime Minister. Russia's actions will have implications and possible impacts on the Asian security landscape as well. Noriyuki Shikata, Cabinet Secretary for Public Affairs in the Japanese PM's office, said in an interaction. He even compared Russia's military operations in Ukraine with China's aggression in the East China Sea and South China Sea, as well as North Korea's missile tests. But Mr. Shringla said both prime ministers had discussed the need to abide by the UN Charter, respect international law and territorial sovereignty, and to adhere to nuclear safety norms. The joint statement issued at the end of the summit said this: both India and Japan reiterated their call for an immediate cessation of violence and noted that there was no other choice but the path of dialogue and diplomacy for resolution of the conflict. The leaders affirmed that they would undertake appropriate steps to address the humanitarian crisis in Ukraine. Meanwhile, Japan's Mr. Shikata said Japan hoped to speed up efforts to complete the Mumbai-Ahmedabad Shinkansen bullet train project. The project had run into rough weather over land acquisition in Maharashtra and is now expected to be delayed to about 2026. He said Japan hopes that when one such high-speed rail project is completed, Indians will see the benefits. Besides speedy conveyance, it will be environmentally friendly. It will attract more investments and new smart cities will come up.